Would it be fair to say that the broken southern border is man-made?
It would be fair to say that, sir, based on policies that have been implemented.
And that man's name is Joe Biden, isn't it?
That would be a fair assessment, yes, Senator.
Under President Biden, if you wait in line for legal immigration, you're a chump, aren't you?
When you look at the benefits that have been given to people and the speed at which they've been released into the United States, I would be chagrined if I were waiting.
You're a chump, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
You think you're smarter than the American people, don't you?
Absolutely not, Senator. I am here to discuss the use of the military as part of this mass deportation.
You think you're more virtuous than the American people, don't you, General?
Senator, I am insulted by your comment.
While you were sleeping, the foundations of your financial future were being traded away behind closed doors. But today, the man they couldn't buy just walked into the room with the receipts. Senator John Kennedy has uncovered a betrayal so deep that it will change the way you look at a dollar bill forever. This isn't just a hearing, it's a funeral for the corruption in D.C. In the next few minutes, you're going to witness the most brutal financial takedown in Senate history. But before we reveal the final blow that left the room in total silence, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You do not want to be the last to know what Kennedy just exposed.
Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Grime, am I saying your name right?
You are, Senator.
You argued the Calais case?
I did.
Okay, I'm going to tell you my understanding of the case, and then Mr. Cox, I'm going to ask you to tell me if Mr. Grime got it right, and Mr. Chamberlain, you can chime in if you would like. Are you familiar, Mr. Grime, with the Students for Fair Admissions case?
I am.
Okay, that's the case recently where the Supreme Court said you can't use race in college admissions. Now, here's what I heard the Supreme Court say in that case. I heard the Supreme Court say, look, colleges, we're not going to get into the admissions business. That's your business. We're just telling you you can't use race as a factor to admit anybody. Is that your understanding of the case?
Basically, yes. And they did a whole 14th Amendment.
Don't try to muddy the water to make it look deep, guys. I know you're all smart. I'm just trying to get to the bottom line. Am I wrong or right?
You're right.
Okay. Now, the way I read Calais is the Supreme Court is saying, look, first of all, these are political questions. And we're not going to tell the states how to draw congressional districts. We don't want to be in that business. That's a political question. We're just saying you can't use race as a factor. Is that what they did in Calais, or am I misunderstanding it?
That's basically it. You can use it to remedy, past discrimination that you've proven. But that wasn't the case in the Calais case. The other side didn't prove it.
Well, but this, once again, you're muddying that water, man. Did the court, or did it not, say that you can't use race to draw a congressional district?
In most cases, you can't unless the state, the person defending the map, shows that they had to use it because there was a showing of immediately past intentional discrimination, that they had to use race to unwind.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me whether he got it right, Mr. Cox.
Senator, quite frankly,
the defense of the Calais case is such a tortured exercise. It's
Mr.
difficult.
Cox, I don't want to hear.
So I'm going
lecture.
to
I want
tell you what
I want you to answer
SFFA, how
my question.
SFFA applies to Calais.
Did he get it right or
He did not
get
get it
wrong?
right. So in under application of to discuss Calais, you have to really discuss what happened in the case
I
that
just want you to
created
tell me
the
what he
district
got
that was
right.
challenged in Calais. That was Robinson.
All right.
The court required the state of Louisiana to redraw its plans pursuant
Mr.
to its
Cox,
findings of a Section 2
can you-
violation.
look, I don't wanna
That's
have
what
a fight.
justified the creation
I
of
don't
the
want
plan.
to have a fight. Can you just tell me? And you're smart, and I don't want to make this more complicated than it is. Tell me what he got right or wrong.
I'm telling you, what he got wrong was
No,
ignoring.
you're speaking like a lawyer, okay? And I'm tired of, I've listened to you gentlemen, okay? Let's just get down to it. Mr. Chamberlain, tell me what Mr. Graham got right or wrong.
He got it all right. You think I'm really going to tell the guy who argued and won Calais that he didn't understand what he was arguing?
Okay?
Sorry, no, I'm totally respectful. Yeah, obviously, I think he's got a good handle on it.
I understand that, Mr. Cox, I don't mean to be rude, the importance of precedent and all that, but didn't the Supreme Court say, except in very narrow circumstances, you just can't use race to help a person, and you can't use race to harm a person, and that includes in drawing congressional districts.
In answering that question, I'm going to tell you that the Robinson Court, which gave rise to the district that was challenged in Calais, said that there was a violation of the Voting Rights Act, that it was required to draw a district or draw a redistricting plan that satisfied the Voting Rights Act, that allowed African Americans to elect candidates of choice.
You don't
That
want to
was-
answer
that's
my
what was
question, do
challenged.
you, Mr. Cox?
I'm answering your question. It
No,
may
you're
not-
not.
It may be an answer that you
No,
don't
you're
like or my
not.
colleagues don't
No,
like.
you're not.
But I'm answering
You're
your
not.
question.
You're giving us another lecture, and this is not a common law class. Tell me in simple terms, is that not what the court said?
The court said a lot of things that were inaccurate. So the court said you can't use race at all in drawing plans. We disagree with that. But what the court really did was say that you can prove race you can prove there was intentional discrimination, which is in violation of this Congress's intent. It also sprinkled partisanship as a defense for any challenge to any challenge under Section 2.
All right, well, I'm about out of time. I can see no disrespect, Mr. Cox, but you're not answering any of my questions. And I know you're disappointed in the decision. But let me put it another way. Do you think race should be used to help a person?
I don't understand that question. Race should be
Sure you
used
do.
to help
Do you
a
think
person?
race should be used to help a person?
I believe that if there is a racial violation of the law, that race discrimination, I believe a remedy that's race conscious can be required, yes.
Do you think race should be used to harm a person?
I don't really understand what that
No,
question
I didn't
means.
think you would. Mr. Chamberlain, do you think it's fair in America to use race to help a person at the expense of other races?
No.
Do you think it's fair in America to use race to hurt another person?
No.
How about you, Mr. Graham?
Absolutely not. Race should not be used to help or hurt an individual.
And no disrespect to Mr. Cox. He's very bright. I can see that. And I've been where you've been. You know, when you get in front of a court of appeal and you're losing, you know, you want to kind of obfuscate. I get it. But that to me is what the court's saying here in all these cases. We're not going to try to run your business. Not in the college admissions, not in drawn districts. But you can't use race. Period. End of discussion. And I think that's what the Constitution says and what most Americans support. I know you're disappointed, Mr. Cox.
I'm not disappointed, I'm outraged.
But that's what the Constitution says.
Well, can I add one more thing that's
Sure.
not quite exactly addressing what you asked? I do think there's a role for a co-equal branch of government, Congress, to make its own determination regarding how it wants its laws enforced. And I would urge this Congress to reconsider Calais in that light.
Yeah, but you and I are both aware that the United States Supreme Court has full authority to pass on the constitutionality of a statute. Come on, you know that. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
If Mobile versus Bolden is any example of what can and can't happen, this Congress can take a look at Calais and say, actually, you got it wrong. And you actually didn't interpret what we intended in 1982 correctly.
The problem with your argument is I don't think race should be used to help a person because of his race. And I don't think race should be used to harm a person because of his or her race. And I think that's what most Americans believe. And if you don't believe the opposite, and you clearly do, this is America. You can believe what you want. But the Supreme Court is deciding these cases.
I hear you.
Saying race is off the table.
I hear you. And I believe as a civil rights lawyer that if you find a violation based on race, you need to craft a remedy that addresses that.
Sure.
Senator Whitehouse. Senator Whitehouse.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations, gentlemen. Mr. Flowers, I want to ask you about an article you wrote last year called "The Departmentalism in the Age of Trump." Do you remember that?
I do, Senator. It was a speech that I gave.
Yes, yeah. And as I read it, you espouse the view that each department of the federal government has a responsibility to interpret the Constitution. Did you mean each department or each branch? Tell me about that article.
They'd be synonymous in this context. I was referring to both branches. The theory of departmentalism is the view.
So you were referring to branches?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And the theory of departmentalism, which Abraham Lincoln is perhaps the most prominent person to espouse it, is the view that every single federal official takes an oath to the Constitution and has a duty to abide by it. So you sometimes hear people say that the Constitution is what the courts say it is. And that's not quite right. Every official has a duty to interpret the Constitution. So, for example, if the Supreme Court okay.
I get it. So Congress has a right to interpret the Constitution, right?
Correct, and a duty to do so.
Okay. What happens if Congress interprets the Constitution one way and the United States Supreme Court interprets it another? Who wins?
So if that law is challenged in court, the court has a duty to say what the law is, and with respect to those parties, they'll issue a judgment. So with respect to those parties, they'll win.
I get all that, but who wins?
So in that case, the court would win with respect to the parties. The law would, Congress would be free to pass the same law again.
Given the fact that the executive branch and the legislative branch, the federal government, both have the authority to interpret the Constitution according to your theory, as well, of course, as the courts. Is there any, suppose the executive branch interprets the Constitution one way and the Supreme Court interprets it another way, who wins?
So the court will win when the case comes, the court will win in the sense that it will interpret the law, and its interpretation of the law will be binding on the parties in the case before it. But it's not necessarily binding on future parties. So the executive would be free to try the same thing again with another party.
So are you saying that if the president disagrees with an interpretation by the Supreme Court, but the president is not a party, the president can ignore the Supreme Court ruling?
But he could certainly not ignore the Supreme Court ruling with respect to the parties to whom the judgment applies. But Abraham Lincoln, famous...
No, I'm trying to get drilled down to understand, Counselor, what you really said. Let's suppose that the Supreme Court issued, well, let's take Calais, the Calais decision. Okay, the Supreme Court ruled. Some like it, some don't. The president was not a party, nor was Chairman Grassley. Mm-hmm. If they disagree with Calais, the president or Chairman Grassley, can they just ignore it? Is that what you're saying?
No, I wouldn't say ignore it. They're obligated to carry the judgment into effect insofar as that.
Tell me what you do. I'm confused. I'm sorry. I agree with you. Everybody should pay attention to the Constitution.
Can I provide a concrete example from history?
No, because I'm running out of time. I'm sorry. We'll talk about this later. I just don't. Do you think any of us have the right to defy a federal court order?
Generally, no, with an exception.
What do you mean generally?
So there's an exception for orders issued in cases where the court lacks jurisdiction. Setting that aside,
Wait, there's an exception for what?
if a court issues an order in a case in which it lacks jurisdiction, then parties are not bound by that order. But generally speaking, they are
Why
bound.
don't you just appeal it in that case?
You can do that, but the courts have.
So if in your opinion, the court didn't have jurisdiction, you can ignore it?
Again, generally, no, but there's a long-stated exception in the law that courts have recognized for when the lower court lacked jurisdiction. Now, I would never advise a client to do that, because if you're wrong...
I hope not.
Right.
I mean, this business of ignoring a federal court order is nonsense. It's nonsense on stilts. You may not agree with a court order. That's fine. This is America. You don't have to agree with it. You can. That's why God made courts of appeal. But you're not suggesting that we don't all have to give me an instant. I'm way over. Give me an instance where you think a federal court order could be ignored.
The only one of which I'm aware is if a court had no jurisdiction over the case and issues the order anyway, and you don't follow it, you cannot later be held in contempt for doing so. But aside from that, parties must follow court orders.
Who gets to determine, this is my last question, Mr. Chairman, you've been very patient. Who gets to determine whether they lack jurisdiction?
Effectively, the appeals court. That's why I would never advise a client to do this, because if you're wrong that they lack jurisdiction, then you're
Okay.
going to be held in contempt.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, Mr. Schwartz, I didn't get to you.
Senator Klobuchar.
Thank you.
Don't. You either think that we're more important and smarter and more virtuous than the American people, or you don't. And I think we ought to be treated the same. Now, having said that, I said I agreed with what Senator Paul said. I'm just worried his name on the bill is going to get knocked out of the park. So I'm going to put it in my name. Let's do what, it's not Senator Paul's bill. It's Senator Ron Johnson's bill. And what Ron John's, we call him Ron John, I'm sorry, Senator Ron Johnson from the wonderful state of Wisconsin. What Senator Johnson has proposed, and I voted for repeatedly, says, look, if you're deemed an essential employee right now, you're working, but you're not being paid. Senator Johnson's bill says, we're going to pay you. I voted for that. It also says if you're furloughed, if you're deemed to be non-essential, then you're not working, but you will get paid once we come out of this shutdown. Does that make sense? That's what Senator Ron Johnson has proposed. And as I told my good friend Senator Paul, I agree with him. Senator Paul's name is on that bill. It's going to be vetoed 6 ways to Sunday. I'm going to try to put my name on the bill. Maybe it'll get passed, maybe it won't, but I think I have a better chance than Senator Paul. That's just my personal opinion. It's not meant to be personal. So, for that reason, Mr. President, I tried a third way. It's not my preferred way, but we got to get out of this mess. I ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of calendar number 191 S302, which, as I've indicated, Mr. President, I think we've got a chance to pass the House with it, and I really don't think President Trump will veto it if I explain to him it's Senator Ron Johnson's bill. And I further ask that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and that the motion to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table.
Is there an objection?
Mr. President.
Chair recognizes the senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. Reserving the right to object, let me just say this. We should make sure that every federal worker gets the paycheck that they are owed. And the right way to do that is for Republicans to finally join us and get serious about passing a bipartisan CR so we do reopen the government and prevent healthcare costs from exploding. Instead, the bill that the senator from Louisiana is asking for unanimous consent for actually lets Donald Trump and Russ Vought decide who they want to pay during a shutdown, and that will allow them to stiff everyone else. President Trump has said he will only pay the people he wants to. He literally said, and I quote, "We're going to take care of our people. There are some people who really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way," unquote. This bill would actually let Trump do exactly that. Mr. President, we should make sure all of our workers get paid, not just the workers Trump likes. So the best way to do that is for, of course, Republicans to sit down with us as Democrats, work out a solution to reopen the government. If instead you do as the senator from Louisiana suggests here, then at a minimum, it should cover all employees. And that proposal is out on the table with Senator Van Hollen and Senator Peters. Thank you, Mr. President. For that reason, I object.
Objection is heard. Chair recognizes the senator from Louisiana.
Mr. President, look, I get it. You know, this is why we're in a shutdown. I just proposed a bill, was my third choice, but it's better than nothing, to say everybody gets paid. And my good friend from Washington State objected. I don't know what else to do. I voted 14 times to open up government. I can't change the election. President Trump was duly elected President of the United States. He was, in a free election. And the American people spoke. And some of my colleagues are upset about that. In fact, they hate the president so much, they've shut down government. They hate him so much that if President Trump came out in favor of breathing to live, they would hold their breath. It's not rational. And I just don't know what else to do. All I can tell my Democratic friends is, look, reasonable people disagree, and I get it. But you're just being too emotional. You need to go drink a big, old, cold, tall glass of get over it and realize that President Trump is the President of the United States. Don't shut government down because of it. Mr. President, you've been really patient. And even though the parliamentarian tried to get you to dodge my questions, you answered them straight up, and I really appreciate it. With that, I yield. No, I suggest the absence of a quorum. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Senator.
In America, unlike other countries, where they let you die in a ditch, in America, if you're too poor to be sick, we'll pay for your doctor. Isn't that right?
It is.
And one of the programs we do that through is Medicaid.
Correct.
Okay. And this money for Medicaid, it didn't just fall from heaven. We thank heaven for it, but it came out of people's pockets, didn't it?
Every dime of it.
And some of that money is stolen, isn't it?
Yes.
And the states, not all of them, but many of them, allow it to be stolen, don't they?
Yes.
Let's take Medicaid in California, for example. I don't mean to just pick on California, but because this happens in other states. We saw it happen in Minnesota, for example. But in California, for every dollar that the California state government puts up for Medicaid, for the Obamacare portion of Medicaid, the federal taxpayer puts up $9, don't they? And so, is that right?
That's correct, Senator.
And so, as a result, California has allowed thousands and thousands of these social assistance and so-called health care providers pop up. in California, haven't they?
Yes.
And some of those providers steal the money, don't they?
Yes, we know that to be true. Yes.
And the money never gets to the people they supposedly are trying to help. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And the other way that California and others abuse the fact that they're putting up $1 and the American taxpayers putting up $9. Did I mention it was $9?
I think some say it's even more, but yeah. 9 work.
They expand the services, don't they?
Yes.
Because some states, like California, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. It's not everybody in California state government, but it's a lot of them. They see this as free money, don't they?
They're not paying for it, yes.
Isn't it a fact that, for example, Medicaid in California will pay a provider to provide tribal prayers? I looked all this up.
I mean, I'll accept that. I didn't know that, but yes.
That California will actually pay a health care provider, I didn't know this was a medical expertise, to pay for exorcisms. Is that right?
I'll accept that, Senator, but that's.
They pay, the California Medicaid program will pay for herbal medicines, meal deliveries. They'll pay for housing. I don't know what housing has to do with health care. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were you aware that the Medicaid program using federal money, taxpayer money, will pay for an in-home chef?
Yes.
Okay.
Even if it's a family member, yes.
Yeah, they'll even pay for gymnasium fees through Medicaid in California. They'll pay for bicycles, scooters, gym memberships. Did you know that?
Yes, several states do, but California does for sure.
They'll even repay your student loans. Were you aware of that?
I was not aware of the student loans repayment.
Yeah, they'll repay somebody's student loans to encourage them to become a health care provider. I mean, California, they're just setting all kind of records. These folks are they're wild people. California's got 12% of the population. In the last 10 years, they're responsible for half of these new so-called health providers to provide exorcisms and other things. Now, what the hell are we doing about it? Why has this gone on for so long?
Senator, listen, it's a great question. And what you just described are programs that are allowed under the program. You have a whole other issue in California where a lot of these folks are just stealing the money, not even running it through for exorcism.
They're thieves, aren't they?
They're thieves, correct.
And California just watches it happen, don't they? Not everybody in California. The government does, doesn't it?
Well, that's the challenge in a lot of states, is that we don't have a state government, which you all have entrusted to run these programs and take care of the money that you all give them. There's state structures that absolutely do not do any compliance, and they don't do their job.
Because they don't have no incentive to. They're getting free money. Isn't that right?
Yes, I think so, yes.
We got to change this, General.
We're trying.
I call this a slush fund. You want to talk about slush fund? This is a tier 1 slush fund that's been going on for years and years and years. Billions, hundreds of billions of dollars is stolen.
Yes, Senator. And that's why, look, this department stood up a whole new fraud division, and AUSAs around the country prosecute fraud every day. So it's not as if we didn't have the work out there, but it's so systematically taking money from the American taxpayer that we very much believe that it needs its own stand-up structure, and I think it's true for the reasons that you just said.
If you need an exorcism, you can go to California, can't you?
Thank you, Senator.
House. Senator Kennedy.
Mr. Olson, I believe I looked at your resume. You are an elder in the Reformed Presbyterian Church of North America. Is that correct?
I am an ordained elder in the RPCNA. I am not actively serving.
In August of 2015, you gave a sermon at the Second Reformed Presbyterian Church. Do you remember that?
2015, I think that might have been a Sunday school lecture, but I spoke, yes.
During that sermon, you said that marriage was not intended for all people, including, and I'm going to quote your words, our handicapped friends are our persons with physical disabilities that might prevent the robust marriage that we're called to, close quote. Did you say that?
I think I did, Senator, yes.
You believe that folks with handicaps and physical disabilities should not be able to marry?
No, Senator. I was explaining the meaning of Christ's words that some, to use Christ's terms, are eunuchs by birth, and explaining that the meaning of that verse in the context of those who are called to singleness, and that there are various reasons why individuals don't get married.
But what about folks who are handicapped or who have developmental disabilities?
I was using that example as an illustration of why some don't get married, not as a kind of reason why someone shouldn't. It was illustrative of the condition in which some find themselves, but certainly not in any stretch of the imagination suggesting that they couldn't or shouldn't, merely that in some cases they don't.
On July 24, 2022, you gave another sermon at the Columbia Reformed Presbyterian Church. Do you remember that?
The Columbus Reformed Presbyterian Church, yes.
You were speaking about sexuality, is that correct?
I gave 2 sermons at that church, and the main topic of both of those was not human sexuality.
In one of them you said, quote, transgenderism, homosexuality, fornication, and all sorts of sexual perversions was a form of hypocrisy from, quote, your words, shame on the inside. Did you say that?
I don't recall the precise wording, but that sounds
What did you
familiar.
mean by that?
Yeah, Senator, thanks for the opportunity to clarify that. So I was preaching a sermon on a passage in the Old Testament about an Old Testament King Uzziah who was stricken with leprosy.
I don't have a lot of time, Counselor. Tell me what you meant by that.
Sure, that many...
Do you believe that fornication is a form of sexual perversion?
Senator, my personal views, my religious views, what I was speaking at that time were for the edification of the people that I was preaching to. As a judge sitting here today, my obligation is to apply the rule of law.
Yeah, I understand that, but my obligation is to try to understand you, because this is a lifetime appointment. Do you believe that fornication, which I assume you mean by that the sex act, is a form of sexual perversion?
Senator, the doctrine of the church that I was at does state that fornication is a sin.
Well, what do you mean by fornication?
Any sexual act outside the bounds of marriage.
Okay. So you believe premarital sex is a sexual perversion?
Senator, my personal views, as many have said before, I won't comment, but the doctrine of the church that I belong to would...
Is it your doctrine?
I took, as an elder, I took a vow.
Is it your doctrine?
As an elder of the RPCA...
Is it your doctrine?
Senator, my personal views as a judge are not the object of what I would rule upon.
Give me one more minute, please, Mr. Chairman. On August the 23rd, 2015, you spoke in Sunday school, and you said, quote, I'm not saying women can't have careers. That's not what I'm saying. No, strike that. I'm reading the wrong quote. I apologize. In your talks at your Sunday school, you said that God, quote, has called wives to be subject to their husband, end quote, and to, quote, serve the good of your husband and support his calling, close quote. Did you say that?
Again, I gave a couple Sunday school lectures around that time. I don't recall the particular one, but I think I recall saying something along those lines.
What do you mean by that?
So in Christian marriage, as explained by the apostles, I was describing our church's understanding of what Christian marriage ought to look like.
And you believe Christian marriage provides that women have to be subservient to their husbands?
Senator, I think I was quoting either a passage in Ephesians or those are not my words. Those are words in the scriptures.
Well, you said them. Do you believe them?
Senator, I believe every word of the Bible.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Olson, can I just follow up on that, since he raised interesting questions? But let me just ask you. You're an ordained elder.
All right. So you got this subpoena from Jack Smith for senator's records. Did you know who Jack Smith was?
I am aware of who Jack Smith was.
Yeah, you knew at the time that Jack Smith worked for President Biden, and the Attorney General, President Biden's appointee, hired Jack Smith to prosecute a former President of the United States, a former opponent of President Biden, and a current opponent of President Biden, and everybody associated with him. You were aware of that?
Senator, I'm aware of the nature of Mr. Smith's investigation.
Yeah, I thought you would be. And you get this order along with the names that the federal government wants you to divulge that says the people on this list we think might destroy evidence or tamper with witnesses. And it was signed by Judge Boasberg. Is that right?
We did receive a non-disclosure order.
Yeah. Did you know who Judge Boasberg was?
Senator, I was not involved in reviewing that non-disclosure
order.
order, but I
General counsel?
I am aware of who Judge Boasberg is.
This was just a frivolous thing to you? Were you aware that Judge Boasberg hates Republicans like the devil hates holy water?
Senator, I do not know Judge Boasberg, and I'm not aware of who he hates.
Okay. Did you look up the names of the people being subpoenaed, whose records were subpoenaed?
In responding to the subpoena, Senator, we produced the subscriber names.
Did you look up the names to see who they were?
Personally, no.
Just give me one more minute, Madam Chair. So let me get this straight. You get a subpoena from Jack Smith, who's been on the front page of every paper, with an order signed by Judge Boasberg saying these guys might destroy records, and you didn't look up the names. Is that your testimony?
Senator, when our analysts responded to the subpoena...
Is that your testimony? Don't stall me.
No, I'm trying to answer your question, Senator.
No, you're not. You're trying to stall me. You know I'm out of time.
Senator, when our analysts responded to the subpoena, part of that response would have included the subscriber names associated with the accounts.
Give me one more minute, Madam Chair, please.
Without objection.
I beg you. Did your board of directors know you guys were doing all this? You got, on your board of directors, you got representatives from Starbucks, Coca-Cola, UPS, Longhorn Steakhouse, Olive Garden. Did they know you guys were doing all this?
Senator, can you help me understand what you mean by all of this?
You broke the law.
No, Senator. Verizon
For
did not break
negligence.
the law.
It's called malpractice. You just turned over the records. Did you appeal the order?
No, Senator. We did not.
Did you call the senators?
No, Senator.
Did you file a motion to quash?
No, Senator. We followed.
You just accepted. You just took the information that Jack Smith and Judge Boasberg gave you and sucked it up like a Hoover Deluxe, didn't you?
Senator, we followed the law and
no, you didn't.
Produced the records.
Counselor, you ought to hide your head in a bag. And this isn't over. and all the rest of you should too.
I'm going to try to drill down and get clear on what happened here. When you got a subpoena from Jack Smith for Senator Cruz's records, you pushed back on this. How did you do that? I mean, how did you know it was Senator Cruz whose records were being requested?
In that case, Senator, it was fairly obvious. The subscriber name was Ted Cruz for Senate, so we put it together.
Yeah. Huh. So you thought to actually look at the number and match it up and maybe see if there might be a legal problem here. You asked a few questions. Is that fair to say?
That's correct.
And what happened next?
What happened next was we did some research, as you would expect any legal department to do. As I mentioned earlier, we consulted with outside experts. We talked among ourselves, and we determined that even though the subpoena was obligatory, that we were required to respond to it, we can always ask a question. And so we asked the question, and we sent an email from my department that I read into the record earlier, asking for special counsel's views on the potential constitutional implications under Article 1.
Well, did this subpoena include a non-disclosure order with it?
It did, Senator.
But that didn't stop you from conducting a basic inquiry?
No, it did not.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you did the inquiry because, as it turns out, the non-disclosure order was totally illegal. As we've covered now exhaustively in this hearing and in others, statutes in place on the books in 2020 require notification to sitting members of Congress if their information is subpoenaed in any way, not to mention the contract that the Sergeant-at-Arms has with all three of the major telecoms. So I'm glad you did your job. My question for you is, Mr. Miller, why didn't you do any of this?
Senator, at that time, and I recognize we should have had a better process here, but at that time, we did not train our subpoena analysts to do a searching inquiry into the subscriber associated with a particular.
What does that mean? What does that mean? You just didn't bother to try and associate the phone number with any name?
Senator, we respect the privacy of our customers, and we did not want.
Apparently not, because you turned over every piece of information from every senator sitting on this dais who got any illegal subpoena. You turned it over with no process at all. So let's skip that part. Just get to the part where you tell me why you didn't do anything that Mr. McAtee did.
Senator, the process we have in place now would largely.
I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in why you didn't do any of the basic investigation. Ask a question, you get a subpoena for all of these numbers, and your testimony is you just handed over the documents, you didn't do anything? Is that what happened?
Three reasons, Senator. So first, when we receive a subpoena, we do not know the nature of the investigation or the sensitivities involved. Second, as I mentioned, we train our subpoena analysts to respect the confidentiality and the privacy of our.
So you don't try to match up. You don't look and match up the numbers. You're telling me you don't try to associate a number with a name. You don't do that.
No, Senator. We do now for members of Congress, but that was not the procedure at the time.
Really? Because you testified to Senator Durbin not long ago that you disclosed all of the names to this committee of all of the people who are associated with the numbers, including mine. So clearly you had the ability to do it. You just didn't do it. Is that correct?
We had the ability to do it, yes.
But
Senator.
you didn't do it.
We thought we had good reasons for that, Senator.
Why is that? You don't have any problem associating names with accounts when you go to bill people, which you do every month. I seem to recall getting a bill from you monthly. You had no problem associating my name with my number when you wanted money from me. But when it came to protecting the basic rights of your consumers, your subscribers, your customers, you couldn't be bothered?
No, Senator, I would not say that.
I would. I think I just did.
I would too.
Senator.
Why didn't you follow the contract that you have with the United States government? You've got a contract worth millions of dollars with the United States government, which obligates you to inform the Sergeant-at-Arms if you get any requests for process or information from a senator or any number associated with that contract. That contract was in place, and that language was in place when these subpoena requests came through, and you didn't do any of it. Why is that?
Senator, I don't agree that we.
You don't agree with what?
That we violated the contract.
Really?
With the
The contract says that you are obliged to inform the Senate when any records are demanded. And I'm quoting here from a letter not from Senator Graham, not from a Republican. It's from Senator Ron Wyden, who sent a dear colleague letter to every member of the United States Senate, May 21st, 2025, notifying us that these contract terms were being regularly violated by your company, among others. So why didn't you follow the contract that you were making millions of dollars on? Why didn't you do that?
Senator, I get your frustration with this issue, but the contract.
No, I just want the truth. I'm frustrated because We get the runaround constantly. We've gotten it all day from you. So why didn't you follow the contract?
Senator, the contract covers a definition of Senate data. At this time, we did not interpret the contract to apply to the
phone lines?
To the kind of records that Verizon generates, as opposed to records.
Oh,
that
for
the
heaven's
Senate
sake.
generates.
This is just absurd. And I'll just say this, Madam Chair. We're talking here about members of Congress. If you are a normal person, if you are a working person out there, just think of the fact that these guys, with one exception, Mr. McAtee's company, AT&T, all the other guys just handed over this data. They couldn't do it fast enough. They rushed to do it. They can find you when they want to bill you. They can find you in a heartbeat. When it comes time to protect your data, they're nowhere to be found. It is absolutely a disgrace. And the fact that you testified earlier that you get hundreds of thousands of requests for personal information every year is chilling, because what all your customers should know is you just turn it over willy-nilly. I would expect better from you, from all of you, frankly. I think what you've done here is outrageous, and I think the implications for the privacy of the American people are absolutely unbelievable. Thank you, Mr. McAtee, for protecting your customers. I wish these other guys would do the same. I tell you what, everybody ought to go to AT&T, because Verizon and whoever you are, T-Mobile, you guys are terrible.
At the time of 2023, when they made their request about information regarding Team Graham and my official phone records, you were unable to find out that it was me. Is that your testimony? You didn't know it would involve me?
Senator, the analyst responding to that subpoena.
Well, they didn't know it was me. Is that fair to say?
I do not know, Senator.
Well, so you need to answer that, because you got a contract to protect us. And you don't have anything in place to find out if we're being asked by the executive branch. You got all that money, and you did nothing to earn that money, because, will you agree the system failed me because I wasn't notified and you gave my information to the special counsel?
Senator, I would certainly agree we have frustrated you as a policymaker.
Well, no,
and a
you
customer.
failed me. You failed to honor the contract protecting all of us. Do you realize Section 2 U.S.C. 6628 says, a Senate office shall not be barred through operation of any court order or any statutory provision from notifying the Senate of any legal process. Mr. McKee, David.
McAtee, yes, sir.
You were familiar with that, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And when
I
you
am.
found out it was Senator Cruz, you went to bat for Senator Cruz.
We asked that question. I testified to earlier.
And they backed down and folded like a cheap suit. They never pushed. They never wanted to court, right?
They never followed up.
Yeah, because they're on a fishing expedition. So if any of you had challenged these guys, they'd went away. So the Senate gave you probably tens of millions of dollars, and I've been a customer for a very long time. What about the 430 Republican groups? What about the 197 subpoenas? We're not going to give up on this. This is a major breakdown of constitutional checks and balances, a major breakdown.
As the dust settles in the Senate chamber, the silence is deafening. We have seen the stuttering. We have seen the panicked whispers. And we have seen the absolute fear in the eyes of those who thought they were untouchable. Senator Kennedy didn't just win a debate today. He reminded every hardworking person watching this that common sense is a weapon. When you treat the American taxpayer like an ATM, eventually the machine is going to fight back. And today, Kennedy was that machine. When Kennedy looked them in the face and said, "It's finally over," he wasn't just talking about a hearing. He was declaring an end to the era where elites could gamble with your family's future without consequence. We've seen the evidence, we've heard the testimony, and now the truth is officially out. But the real battle is just beginning. DC wants you to forget this video by tomorrow morning. They want you to stay distracted, stay quiet, and stay in the dark. But we won't let them. This community is built on the truth. We want to hear from you right now. Do you think our financial system is beyond repair, or is Kennedy the hero who can still save us? Drop a comment below with the word money if you believe it's time for a total reset. We read every single comment, and your voice is the only thing they can't silence. If you're ready to stand with Kennedy, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know before it's suppressed. The game is over for them, but for us, the revolution of truth has just begun. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.